It's the happiest day of their lives. A day of love, laughter, and promises of a future together. A day they've dreamed of, planned for, and finally reached. They are surrounded by family and friends, basking in the glow of their new life together. But for some couples, that new life is tragically, horrifically, and unbelievably short. Their happily ever after lasts only a few hours, ending in a brutal twist of fate that turns a dream into a nightmare. These are the stories of newlyweds who died just hours after saying, "I do." Their final moments, captured in the joyful glow of their wedding day, serve as a chilling reminder that sometimes the happiest day of your life can also be your last. Case 1. The perfect night. The salt-laced air of Folly Beach, South Carolina, was filled with the sounds of celebration on the evening of April 28, 2023. For 34-year-old Samantha Sam Miller, it was the culmination of a dream. She had just married Arik Hutchinson, the man who had captured her heart, in a ceremony that was as breezy and beautiful as the coastal setting. The reception was a blur of joyful moments, toasts from tearful family members, the clinking of glasses, the shared laughter of friends who had watched their love story unfold. As the party began to wind down, Sam and Arik, still radiating the unmistakable glow of newlyweds, decided on a perfectly charming exit. They climbed into a golf cart, adorned with a simple "Just Married" sign, a whimsical nod to their laid-back style. The engine hummed to life, and as they pulled away from the cheering crowd, enveloped by the warm night, Sam leaned over to her new husband. "I don't want this night to ever end," she whispered, her voice filled with a pure, unadulterated happiness that seemed to hang in the air. Her words, meant as a simple expression of pure bliss, would become a chilling prophecy. Just a few blocks from their reception venue, their fairy tale was shattered in the most brutal way imaginable. A Toyota Camry, driven by 25-year-old Jamie Lee Komorowski, was hurtling down the same road. She was not just speeding, she was flying, reaching a staggering 65 miles per hour in a 25-mile-per-hour zone. Her system was flooded with alcohol, her judgment obliterated. She never saw the slow-moving golf cart, a tiny vessel of happiness in the vast darkness. The impact was explosive. The Camry, a 2-ton projectile of metal and glass, plowed into the back of the golf cart without a hint of braking. The smaller vehicle was launched into the air, a toy tossed aside by a destructive force, flying over 100 yards before it finally came to rest in a mangled heap, having flipped multiple times. The violence of the collision was absolute. Sam, still in her pristine white wedding dress, was killed instantly. Arik was thrown from the cart, his body broken, his brain bleeding. The idyllic scene of a moment ago was now a tableau of carnage, a twisted wreckage of metal, and shattered dreams. The night was no longer filled with the sounds of celebration, but with the piercing wail of sirens. Flashing red and blue lights painted a grotesque scene on the quiet residential street. First responders worked frantically, but it was a hopeless effort. Sam's life, a vibrant flame just moments before, had been snuffed out. Arik, clinging to life, was rushed to the hospital where he would begin a long and arduous journey of recovery, both physical and emotional. Jamie Lee Komorowski, the architect of this devastation, was arrested at the scene. The subsequent investigation revealed a night of bar-hopping and reckless abandon that had led to this tragic end. In December 2024, she pleaded guilty to felony DUI resulting in death and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. The case became a national symbol of the catastrophic consequences of drunk driving, a story told and retold in an effort to prevent similar tragedies. But for Arik Hutchinson, the statistics and the headlines are a cold comfort. He lost his bride, his soulmate, his future in a single, violent instant. The memory of her final words, a simple, heartfelt wish for a perfect night to last forever, will forever be a cruel and haunting echo in the silence of his life. Case 2. The Courthouse Steps. Harley Morgan and Rhiannon Boudreau were the kind of couple that seemed destined to be together. High school sweethearts, their love story was a familiar and comforting one, a tale of two young people who had found their other half early in life. On August 23, 2019, they decided to make it official. At the ages of 19 and 20, respectively, they stood before a justice of the peace in Orange, Texas, and exchanged vows. It was a simple ceremony, a quiet affirmation of a love that was anything but. Their family, a small group of their most cherished loved ones, watched with pride and joy. A larger celebration was planned for later, a grander affair to mark their union. But this moment, this simple act of commitment, was all that truly mattered. As they walked out of the courthouse, hand in hand, the world was their oyster, a future of shared dreams and endless love stretching out before them. Their family, their hearts full, watched as the newlyweds climbed into their car. It was a scene that has played out millions of times, a picture of pure, unadulterated happiness. But this time, the picture would be shattered in the most brutal way imaginable. As Harley pulled their car onto Highway 87, a behemoth of a pickup truck, towing a heavy trailer, was thundering down the same stretch of road. The two vehicles, one a symbol of new beginnings, the other a workhorse of the Texas highways, were on a collision course. The truck, a force of nature on wheels, slammed into the driver's side of the small car, the impact a deafening roar of crunching metal and shattering glass. The car was obliterated, a toy crushed by a giant's hand, sent spinning across the pavement. The violence of the collision was absolute. Harley and Rhiannon were killed instantly, their dreams, their future, their love, extinguished in a single, horrific moment. Their family, who had been waving goodbye just seconds before, were now unwilling witnesses to the most horrific scene imaginable, their joy turning to a primal scream of anguish as they watched their children's lives end before their very eyes. The aftermath was a scene of pure, unadulterated horror. The small car, once a symbol of their new life together, was now a twisted, unrecognizable mass of metal. First responders, their faces grim, could do nothing but confirm the inevitable. Harley and Rhiannon were gone. The truck driver, shaken but largely unharmed, cooperated with the authorities. The investigation concluded that it was a tragic accident, a case of a young, inexperienced driver pulling out into the path of a much larger, faster-moving vehicle. No charges were filed, no one was to blame. And yet, too young, lives were gone. For the families of Harley and Rhiannon, the lack of a villain offered no comfort. Their grief was a raw, open wound, a pain that would never fully heal. They had been there for the beginning of their children's new life, and they had been there for the end. The memory of their smiling faces, so full of hope and promise, would forever be a haunting reminder of a love story that was over before it had even truly begun. Case 3. Paradise Lost. For Marina and Robbie Morgan, their honeymoon on Hamilton Island was a long-awaited dream. The COVID-19 pandemic had forced them to postpone their wedding, but now, in June 2022, they were finally celebrating their union in one of Australia's most idyllic locations. The Whitsundays, a collection of pristine islands off the coast of Queensland, was their paradise. They spent their days exploring the island's lush landscapes and turquoise waters, their nights enjoying the luxurious amenities of their resort. On June 20th, they decided to explore the island in a rented golf buggy, the preferred mode of transport in the car-free paradise. The sun was warm on their skin. The air was filled with the sweet scent of tropical flowers, and they were wrapped in the blissful cocoon of newlywed love. Their carefree exploration, however, was about to take a horrific turn. As they were driving, the golf buggy's battery died, leaving them stranded. Robbie, ever the pragmatist, decided to turn the buggy around and head back to their resort to charge it. But as he attempted a U-turn on a sloping section of the road, the buggy, now without power and difficult to control, began to tip. In a split second of chaos, the buggy overturned, throwing Marina, who was not wearing a seatbelt, onto the pavement. The heavy vehicle then rolled on top of her, its weight crushing her chest. The idyllic scene was shattered. Robbie, in a state of shock and panic, desperately tried to lift the buggy off his wife. Other tourists rushed to help, their faces a mixture of horror and disbelief. A doctor, who happened to be on the island for a conference, began performing CPR, a frantic effort to bring Marina back from the brink. For 35 agonizing minutes he worked, but her injuries were too catastrophic. Marina was gone. The subsequent investigation painted a grim picture of a preventable tragedy. The police concluded that Marina's death was a direct result of not wearing a seatbelt, a simple act that could have saved her life. The resort, while not held legally responsible, faced scrutiny over its safety procedures. The incident served as a chilling reminder that even in paradise, the laws of physics still apply. For Robbie Morgan, the dream had become a nightmare. He had lost his wife, his partner, his love, in a freak accident that would forever be etched in his memory. The beautiful images of their honeymoon, once a source of joy, would now be a painful reminder of what he had lost. The sun-drenched beaches and turquoise waters of Hamilton Island, once a symbol of their love, would forever be the backdrop to his greatest tragedy. Case 4. The Grand Exit. The sprawling ranch in Uvalde, Texas, was the perfect setting for Will Byler and Bailey Ackerman's dream wedding. On November 3, 2018, the two college sweethearts, both seniors at Sam Houston State University, exchanged vows under the vast Texas sky. Their wedding was a reflection of their personalities, a lively, joyful celebration of love, family, and their shared passion for the outdoors. As the night drew to a close, they had one final surprise for their guests, a grand finale that was pure Texas extravagance. A helicopter, a symbol of their soaring ambitions and their adventurous spirit, descended onto the ranch to whisk them away. Their friends and family, their faces illuminated by the helicopter's lights, cheered and filmed as Will and Bailey, still in their wedding attire, climbed aboard. It was a picture-perfect moment. Hollywood ending to a fairy tale day. Their fairy tale, however, would last only a few precious moments. Less than 2 miles from the ranch, in the inky blackness of the Texas night, the helicopter faltered. It crashed into a rugged hillside, the impact a violent, final punctuation mark to a day of joy. Will, Bailey, and their pilot, 76-year-old Gerald Lawrence, were killed instantly. The National Transportation Safety Board's investigation would later reveal a litany of contributing factors. A dark, moonless night, a remote, hilly terrain with few visual cues, and a pilot who may have been flying too low and too fast. It was a perfect storm of circumstances, a high-stakes gamble that had ended in the most tragic way imaginable. The news of the crash spread like wildfire, a dark cloud that settled over the close-knit community of Uvalde. The story of the young couple, so full of life and love, and their tragic end, captured the nation's attention. They were remembered as bright, ambitious students with a shared love for rodeo and a future that seemed limitless. Their wedding, a day that was meant to be the start of their new life together, had become the end. The helicopter, a symbol of their grand ambitions, was now a symbol of their tragic fate. For their families, the grief was immeasurable. The image of their children waving goodbye as they soared into the night would forever be a haunting reminder of a love story that was as beautiful as it was brief. Case 5. The drive home. The night of August 7th, 2021, should have been one of the most magical of 20-year-old Angelica Dondup's life. She had just married her high school sweetheart, and as they drove home from their reception in Salt Lake City, Utah, the world was shimmering with promise. They were young, in love, and at the very beginning of their shared journey. Their car, a simple vessel for their dreams, was filled with the quiet joy and giddy exhaustion that follows a perfect wedding day. They were on their way to their new apartment, ready to start their life as husband and wife. Their journey, however, was about to be violently interrupted. On Interstate 15, a pickup truck, driven by 26-year-old Manaure Gonzalez-Rea, was hurtling towards them, traveling south in the northbound lanes. The truck, a phantom in the night, was a missile of metal and glass, its driver's judgment clouded by alcohol. The head-on collision was a brutal, explosive event, a maelstrom of screeching tires, crunching metal, and shattering glass. Angelica was killed instantly, her life extinguished in a fraction of a second. Her new husband, though seriously injured, survived. He would wake up in a hospital bed, his body broken, his heart shattered, to the news that his bride was gone. Gonzalez-Rea, the man who had turned a highway into a death trap, was also killed in the crash. The aftermath was a scene of unimaginable grief. A young woman, who had been a bride just hours before, was now a statistic, another victim of a drunk driver's selfish and reckless decision. Her family, who had been celebrating her new life, were now planning her funeral. Her husband, his body and spirit broken, was left to navigate a future that was now a barren wasteland of what-ifs and what-could-have-beens. The story of their wedding day, a day that should have been a symbol of their love and their future, was now a tragic tale of a life cut short. A love story that ended in a brutal, senseless act of violence. Case 6. The Last Dance. The wedding of Brazilian Navy Sergeant Fabio Jefferson Maciel and his bride, Denise Guimarães, was a spectacle of joy and celebration. In November 2012, the couple exchanged vows in a traditional church ceremony in Rio de Janeiro, followed by a lavish reception at a stunning beachside venue. 200 of their closest friends and family were there to witness their union, to toast their future, and to dance the night away. The air was filled with the sounds of samba, the clinking of champagne glasses, and the infectious laughter of a couple who were madly in love. Fabio, a man known for his larger-than-life personality and his boundless energy, was the life of the party, his joy a beacon that illuminated the entire celebration. But in a cruel and bizarre twist of fate, the very symbol of their celebration would become the instrument of his demise. In a moment of carefree abandon, Fabio had slipped an empty champagne flute into his trouser pocket. As he danced with a young bridesmaid, a picture of pure, unadulterated joy, he stumbled. The fall was innocuous, a simple misstep on a crowded dance floor, but the consequences were catastrophic. The champagne glass in his pocket shattered, its delicate form transformed into a deadly weapon. A shard of glass, as sharp as a razor, sliced through the fabric of his trousers and severed the femoral artery in his groin. The laughter on the dance floor died, replaced by a collective gasp of horror. Fabio, his face a mask of confusion and pain, collapsed to the floor, a pool of crimson spreading rapidly around him. Guests, their festive mood shattered, rushed to his side, their hands, now stained with his blood, desperately trying to staunch the flow. But the femoral artery, a major thoroughfare for the body's life force, is a relentless and unforgiving foe. The blood flowed unabated, a torrent of life draining away. By the time the paramedics arrived, it was too late. Fabio, the vibrant, energetic groom, was gone. The story of Fabio's death, a bizarre and tragic tale of a wedding celebration gone horribly wrong, made headlines around the world. It was a cautionary tale, a grim reminder that even in the most joyous of moments, danger can lurk in the most unexpected of places. A champagne glass, a symbol of love and laughter, had become a symbol of death and despair. For Denise Guimaraes, the beautiful bride, her wedding day would forever be a day of mourning. She had watched her husband, her love, her future, bleed to death on the dance floor, a surreal and horrific end to a day that had begun with so much promise. These are the stories that remind us just how fragile life can be, how a day of pure joy can turn into a lifetime of sorrow in the blink of an eye. For these 6 couples, their happily ever after was a cruel and fleeting dream. Their stories, though tragic, serve as a powerful reminder to cherish every moment, to hold our loved ones close, and to never take a single day for granted. Because as these stories show, sometimes the end can come when you least expect it, even on the happiest day of your life.